Anne. The autumn sun slanted through Daniel Brooks's kitchen window at exactly 6:47 a.m., the same way it had every morning for the past 3 years. He stood at the counter in his undershirt and work pants, making Emma's lunch with the mechanical precision of a man who'd learned that routine was survival. Peanut butter on wheat bread. Not too much, spread to the edges so it wouldn't leak. Apple slices in the container with the blue lid because she refused to eat them from the red one. Juice box tucked in the side pocket. "Daddy, my sock has a bump." Emma appeared in the doorway, 5 years old with his dark hair and her mother's stubborn chin. One sock bunched around her ankle, the other pulled up properly. Daniel set down the knife. "Come here, Bug." She hopped over, extending her foot with the dramatic flair of someone whose entire world could be ruined by uncomfortable footwear. Daniel knelt, smoothing the sock over her heel, finding the seam that had twisted. "There. Better?" "Better." She studied him with those serious brown eyes. "Are you going to work today?" "Every day, Em. You know that." "But it's Saturday." "It's Thursday." She frowned, counting on her fingers. Daniel waited. This was new. Her trying to track days, trying to understand the structure of time. Last week she'd asked why they couldn't just skip to Christmas. "Oh." She seemed disappointed. "Mrs. Palmer is going to pick me up again?" "Yep. And you're going to have fun, like always." "I guess." She wandered toward the living room, then turned back. "Is Claire coming over?" Daniel's hand stilled on the lunch bag. "Why would Claire come over?" "I don't know. She usually does on Thursdays. She brings her laundry over on Thursdays. That's different from coming over." "But she stays and talks to you." "While her clothes wash." "That's just being polite." Emma shrugged, already losing interest, and Daniel tried to shake off the strange weight her observation had created. Claire Bennett had lived next door for almost as long as Daniel had owned this house. She was a constant, a friendly face, someone who waved from her driveway, who occasionally borrowed eggs or returned his trash bins from the curb. Thursdays had become a thing because her apartment complex's laundry room had flooded last year and never been properly fixed. He'd offered his washer once, and it had become a pattern. That was all it was. A pattern. He finished packing Emma's lunch, grabbed his work boots from the mat by the door, and checked his phone. 2 texts from his supervisor about a job site change, one from his sister asking if Emma wanted to come to a birthday party next month, and one from Rachel. "Still good for tonight? 7 o'clock? Daniel stared at the message. He'd been staring at messages from Rachel for 3 weeks now, ever since his coworker had set them up. She was nice, pretty. Worked in medical billing at the same hospital where Claire... He cut off that thought and typed back, "Yeah, see you then." Emma was singing something unintelligible in the living room, her voice high and off-key. Daniel laced his boots, called out instructions about breakfast and screen time, and headed for the door. His truck started on the second try, which was better than usual. The neighborhood slid past his windows in familiar frames, the Hendersons' Halloween decorations still up in November, the Chen's eternally perfect lawn, and Claire's little gray sedan parked at an angle that suggested she'd gotten home late again. He wondered if she'd slept. Healthcare workers kept brutal hours. Then he stopped wondering because it wasn't his business, and he had a job site to get to. The day unspooled in the usual chaos of commercial electrical work, crawling through ceiling spaces that hadn't seen maintenance in 20 years, arguing with a general contractor who couldn't read blueprints, skipping lunch because there wasn't time. Daniel's hands moved through familiar motions, stripping wire, connecting circuits, testing voltage. His mind stayed mostly quiet, which was how he preferred it. Around 3, his phone rang. Mrs. Palmer, Emma's after-school sitter. "Daniel? Hi. Nothing's wrong, but Emma's asking about dinner." He checked his watch. "I should be home by 5:30. Can you stay until then?" "Of course." "And she wanted me to ask if Miss Claire is coming over." Daniel felt something tighten in his chest. Why does she keep asking that? "I think she likes when Claire's there. You know how kids are. They get attached to people." Mrs. Palmer's voice held a note of something else. Speculation, maybe. "Anyway, I'll plan on 5:30. He hung up and stared at the breaker panel in front of him. Emma was 5. She got attached to everyone. The mailman, the librarian, the teenager who bagged groceries at King Soopers. Claire being on that list didn't mean anything. Except it kind of did. Because somewhere in the last year, Claire had shifted from neighbor to something more present. She'd started appearing at moments that weren't just laundry-related. She'd helped when Emma had a fever and Daniel was stuck at work. She'd brought over dinner the night his truck broke down. She'd sat on his porch last month with a beer while Emma played in the yard, and they'd talked about nothing important until the fireflies came out. He hadn't thought about it. Or he'd thought about it the way you think about anything comfortable, casually, without examination. Now, with the date looming in 4 hours and his daughter asking questions he didn't know how to answer, Daniel was thinking about it. He finished the panel, packed his tools, and drove home through traffic that moved like cold syrup. Mrs. Palmer left at 5:35 with a knowing smile that Daniel pretended not to see. Emma had eaten half her dinner and was lobbying hard for a second episode of her show. One more, then bath time. 2 more. 1. 1.5? That's not how TV works, Bug. She grinned at him, already knowing she'd try again in 20 minutes. Daniel retreated to his bedroom and stared at the shirts hanging in his closet like they might offer guidance. He had 4, 2 flannels for weekends, 1 button-up for the rare occasion that required it, and 1 dark blue shirt he'd bought for a wedding 2 years ago and never worn again. The wedding shirt seemed too formal. The flannels seemed too casual. The button-up was wrinkled. He stood there, paralyzed by fabric choices, until Emma appeared in the doorway. "Why are you staring at your closet?" "I'm trying to figure out what to wear." "Where are you going?" "Out, just for a little while." "With who?" "A friend." Emma's eyes narrowed with 5-year-old skepticism. "What friend?" "Someone named Rachel. You don't know her." "Is she nice?" "I think so. I don't know her that well yet." "Then why are you going out with her?" This was the problem with raising a smart kid. The questions never stopped, and they were always harder than they should be. Because sometimes adults go out to dinner to get to know each other better. It's called a date. Emma processed this. "Are you going to marry her?" "What? No. I just met her." "But you married Mommy." Daniel's throat closed. They didn't talk about Sarah much. Emma had been barely 2 when Sarah left, young enough that her memories were mostly constructed from photographs and Daniel's careful explanations. Young enough that she didn't understand what it meant when someone walked away and never came back. That was different, he managed. How? It just was. "Look, I need to finish getting ready. Can you go watch your show?" She didn't move. "Can I help you pick a shirt?" Something in his chest loosened. Yeah, you can help." Emma marched into the closet with the seriousness of someone entrusted with a critical mission. She examined each shirt, touched the fabrics, then pointed at the dark blue one. "That one makes your eyes look nice." "My eyes are brown, Bug." "I know, but that shirt makes them look warm brown instead of regular brown." He didn't know what to do with that, so he just pulled the shirt off the hanger. Emma watched him change, then followed him to the bathroom where he attempted to do something about his hair. "You should ask Claire," Emma said. Daniel met her eyes in the mirror. "Ask Claire what?" "About the shirt. She always knows about clothes and stuff." "Claire's probably working." "Her car's there. I saw it when Mrs. Palmer and I came back from the park." Of course she'd noticed. Emma noticed everything. "I don't need to bother Claire about a shirt, Em." "But what if the shirt's wrong and your date goes bad?" The logic was flawed, but the anxiety behind it was real. Daniel set down his comb and crouched to her level. "The date's going to be fine. And even if the shirt's wrong, that's okay. Sometimes things don't work out, and that's not anybody's fault." Emma's face scrunched up. "But you want it to work out, right?" Did he? Daniel realized he didn't know. He'd agreed to this date because his coworker had been persistent, and because it seemed like the normal thing to do. 3 years was a long time to be alone. People kept telling him that, as if loneliness could be measured in months and cured with the right introduction. "I want to have a nice evening," he said carefully. "That's all." Emma seemed satisfied with this, or at least willing to drop it. She wandered back to the living room, leaving Daniel to finish his futile battle with his hair. At 6:30, he gave up, grabbed his keys, and headed for the door. Emma was on the couch, already absorbed in her show. "Mrs. Palmer's going to be here in 10 minutes, he called out. "Be good." "I'm always good." "Be extra good." She waved without looking away from the screen. Daniel stepped out except for one window upstairs. Her bedroom, probably. She kept strange hours, covering shifts at the hospital that seemed designed to destroy any normal sleep schedule. He should just get in his truck and go. The restaurant was 20 minutes away and he was already cutting it close. Instead, he found himself walking across the strip of grass between their driveways, up the 3 steps to Claire's porch, his hand raised to knock before he'd fully decided it was a good idea. She answered in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her blonde hair piled on top of her head in a messy knot. No makeup, bare feet. She looked tired in a way that went deeper than one bad shift. "Daniel, is everything okay?" "Yeah, sorry, I know it's late." "It's 6:30. For you, I mean. I figured you'd just be getting up or going to sleep or—" He stopped, hearing how stupid he sounded. "I need help with something. It's dumb." Claire's expression shifted to something like amusement. "Okay, what's the dumb thing?" He held up the shirt he'd changed out of, the button-up. "I can't tell if this is too casual or if the one I'm wearing is too formal. For a dinner thing." "A dinner thing?" "A date. I have a date." The words landed between them with more weight than he'd intended. Claire's face did something complicated, a quick flash of surprise followed by something else he couldn't read. Then she smiled, and it looked almost real. "Let me see." She stepped back, gesturing him inside. Daniel hesitated on the threshold of her small living room, a space he'd been in a dozen times, but which suddenly felt unfamiliar. Claire's apartment was nothing like his house. Where his place was all function and necessity, hers had personality. Books stacked on every surface, plants hanging in the windows, photographs pinned to the walls in no particular order. It smelled like lavender and coffee. "Turn around," she said. He turned, feeling ridiculous, while she examined him like he was a mannequin. "The blue's good, better than the other one, but it's wrinkled." "I know, I don't have an iron." "You don't have an iron?" "I never need one. I wear work shirts." Claire disappeared into what he assumed was her bedroom and returned with an iron and a small folding board. She set them up on her coffee table with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. "Take it off." "What?" "The shirt. I can't iron it while you're in it." Daniel pulled the shirt over his head, hyper-aware of standing in Claire Bennett's living room in his undershirt while she heated up an iron. This was weird. This was definitely weird. But she didn't seem bothered, just focused on smoothing out the fabric with practiced strokes. "So who is she?" Claire asked, not looking up. "Her name's Rachel. She works in medical billing." "At County?" "Yeah." "Do I know her?" "I don't know. Maybe." The iron hissed against fabric. Claire's hands moved steadily, creating crisp lines where there had been wrinkles. "How'd you meet?" "My coworker set us up. We've been texting for a few weeks." "And tonight's the first date?" "Yeah." "Nervous?" Daniel watched her work, the concentration on her face, the way her hair was falling out of its knot. "I don't know. Should I be?" "Most people are nervous on first dates." "Are you? On first dates?" Claire's hand stilled for just a second. "I don't really date." "Why not?" She glanced up, something sharp in her eyes. "Why do you think?" He didn't have an answer. The truth was, he'd never thought about Claire's dating life, which now seemed like a bizarre oversight. She was 30, attractive, funny, when she wasn't exhausted. Of course she dated. Or didn't date. Or had reasons for not dating that were none of his business. "I don't know," he admitted. 12-hour shifts don't leave a lot of time for romance." She finished the shirt, held it up, then handed it back. "There. You look like an adult who owns an iron now." "Thanks." He pulled it on, fumbling with the buttons. "I owe you. You let me use your washer every week. We're even." Daniel finished buttoning the shirt, suddenly aware that he needed to leave, that Mrs. Palmer was probably at his house by now wondering where he'd gone. But Claire was looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite parse, and the space between them felt charged with something unspoken. "Daniel," she said quietly. "Yeah? Do you want to go on this date?" The question caught him off guard. "What kind of question is that?" "A simple one. Do you actually want to go, or are you doing it because you think you should?" He opened his mouth to say of course he wanted to go, that he wouldn't be getting dressed up and asking for shirt advice if he didn't want to go, But the words stuck in his throat because Claire was watching him with those clear blue eyes that always seemed to see more than he wanted to show. "I think it's good to try," he said instead. "It's been 3 years. People keep saying I should get back out there." "What do you say?" "I don't know what I say." Claire nodded slowly, like this confirmed something she'd already suspected. She moved to the couch, sat down with her legs tucked under her, and Daniel got the sense that something was shifting, that they were no longer talking about his date or his shirt. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Sure." "You're going to think I'm crazy." "I already think you're a little crazy. You work night shifts by choice." She smiled, but it faded quickly. Her hands twisted together in her lap, and Daniel felt his pulse pick up even though he didn't know why. "Claire, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. I just need to say something, and I need you to let me say it all before you respond, okay?" "Okay." She took a breath. Another. When she spoke, her voice was steady but quiet. "I'm in love with you." The words hit him like cold water. Daniel stood frozen, the carefully ironed shirt suddenly too tight across his chest. Claire wasn't looking at him anymore. She was staring at her hands, at the floor, anywhere but his face. "I have been for a while," she continued. "Maybe a year, maybe longer. I tried not to be because I know your situation and I know you're not looking for this, but trying not to love someone doesn't actually work. So I've just been existing next to it, existing next to you. And that was fine. I could do that. But then Emma told Mrs. Palmer, who told me that you have a date tonight, and I realized I couldn't just keep being quiet about it." She finally looked up, and her eyes were wet. "I don't expect anything from you. I'm not asking you to feel the same way, or to cancel your date, or to do anything at all. I just needed you to know, because I'm tired of pretending I come over on Thursdays just to do laundry. I'm tired of pretending I don't notice what time your truck pulls in every day, or that I don't listen for Emma's laugh through the walls. I'm tired of being your neighbor when what I actually want is to be in your life in a way that matters." Daniel couldn't breathe. The room felt too small, too warm. Claire was crying now, silent tears that tracked down her face while she waited for him to say something, anything. "I should go," he heard himself say. Pain flashed across her face. "Okay. I have to. Rachel's waiting, and I'm already late, and I can't. I know, it's fine. Go." But it wasn't fine. Nothing about this was fine. Daniel backed toward the door, his hands shaking as he reached for the handle. "Claire, Please don't." Her voice cracked. "Just go. Have your date. Forget I said anything." He wanted to tell her he couldn't forget, that her words were already burned into his brain, that everything felt different now in a way he didn't understand. But his phone was buzzing with a text from Rachel asking if he was on his way, and Emma was home with Mrs. Palmer, and his entire carefully structured life was unraveling in Claire Bennett's living room. So he left. He walked out of her house, across the grass, into his truck, started the engine, pulled out of the driveway, drove toward the restaurant where Rachel was waiting, probably checking her watch, probably wondering if she'd been stood up. Daniel's hands gripped the steering wheel hard enough to hurt. "I'm in love with you." The words played on repeat in his head, in Claire's voice, with that particular breaking quality that came from saying something true and terrifying. He thought about the first time they'd met, Claire carrying boxes up her steps while he mowed his lawn, Emma toddling around the yard in diapers. She'd waved. He'd waved back. That was 3 years ago, and somewhere between then and now, she'd fallen in love with him, and he'd been too wrapped up in his own survival to notice. Or maybe he had noticed and chosen not to look too close. Traffic crawled. Daniel's phone buzzed again. He ignored it. What did he feel? That was the question, wasn't it? What did Daniel Brooks, electrician and single father and man who'd learned not to expect much from life, feel about Claire Bennett? He thought about Thursday afternoons, the sound of her laugh, the way she talked to Emma like a person instead of a cute accessory. He thought about the night his truck died, and she'd driven him to pick up Emma without being asked. He thought about sitting on his porch with her while the fireflies came out, not talking about anything important, just existing in the same space. Comfortable. That's what she was. Claire was comfortable. But was that love? Or was that just familiarity? Proximity? The human tendency to attach significance to anyone who showed up consistently? The restaurant appeared on his right, a mid-range Italian place with white tablecloths and soft lighting. Daniel pulled into the parking lot, found a spot, and sat with the engine running. Rachel was inside. Rachel, who might be perfectly nice, who might make him laugh, who might be exactly what he needed to move forward with his life. But Claire's face kept appearing in his mind. The way she'd looked at him before she started crying. The way her voice had shaken around those impossible words. "I'm in love with you." Daniel turned off the truck and walked inside. Rachel was pretty. Dark hair, warm smile, wearing a green dress that looked intentional. She stood when he approached the table, and they did the awkward first date dance of handshake versus hug before settling on a brief, stiff embrace. "I was starting to think you weren't coming," she said, sitting back down. "Sorry, I got held up." "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just neighbor stuff." They ordered drinks, made small talk about the menu, the weather, how long they'd each lived in Denver. Rachel was easy to talk to, asking questions that showed she'd actually read his texts, laughing at his weak attempts at humor. Under normal circumstances, Daniel might have relaxed into this, might have found the rhythm of getting to know someone new, but these weren't normal circumstances. "You seem distracted," Rachel said gently after their entrees arrived. "I'm sorry, I don't mean to be." "Is it work?" "No, it's—" He trailed off. What was he supposed to say? That his neighbor had confessed her love for him an hour ago and now he couldn't think about anything else? That sounded insane. Rachel set down her fork. "Daniel, can I be honest with you? Please." "I don't think you want to be here." The words should have stung, but instead they felt like relief. "It's not you," he said quickly. "You're great. This is great. It's okay." "Really?" She smiled, and it was kind. "I've been on enough bad first dates to recognize when someone's heart isn't in it, and I'd rather we both admit that now than waste the whole evening pretending." Daniel felt gratitude wash over him. "I'm sorry, this was really unfair to you." "It happens. For what it's worth, whoever she is, she's lucky." "It's not like that. It's complicated." "It always is." Rachel signaled for the waiter. "Let's split the check and call it a night. No hard feelings." They paid, walked out together, said goodbye in the parking lot with a mutual understanding that they wouldn't be seeing each other again. Rachel drove away first, her taillights disappearing into traffic, and Daniel stood by his truck feeling like the world's biggest asshole. He'd known. Somewhere deep down, below all the rationalizations about getting back out there and moving on, he'd known this date was a mistake. But he'd gone anyway because that's what he did. He followed the path of least resistance, the socially acceptable script, the thing that seemed normal. And now Claire thought he'd chosen Rachel over her, which wasn't true. Except maybe it was true. Because what else was she supposed to think when he'd run out of her house without a word? Daniel got in his truck and drove home faster than he should have. Mrs. Palmer was reading on the couch when he walked in at 8:45. She looked up, startled. "That was quick." "It didn't work out. Is Emma asleep?" "Since 8. She asked about you around bedtime, but I told her you'd check on her when you got home." "Thanks. I will." He pulled out his wallet. "Sorry for cutting it short." "Don't worry about it." Mrs. Palmer gathered her things, gave him a sympathetic look that suggested she suspected more than he wanted her to, and left. The house felt too quiet. Daniel checked on Emma, curled up with her stuffed rabbit, breathing softly, then retreated to the living room. He should shower, change clothes, do something productive with the nervous energy coursing through him. Instead, he stood at the window that faced Claire's house. Her lights were still on. The same upstairs window casting a warm glow into the night. Daniel wondered if she was crying, if she regretted telling him, if she was already planning to avoid him for the rest of their lives. The thought of Claire avoiding him felt wrong in a way he couldn't articulate. He pulled out his phone, typed and deleted 3 different messages, then gave up. You couldn't text your way out of something like this. You couldn't fix "I'm in love with you" with emojis and apologies. He had to talk to her, but not tonight. Tonight she needed space, and he needed to figure out what the hell he was feeling before he said something he couldn't take back. Daniel turned away from the window, but not before noticing that Claire's light had gone out. He didn't sleep. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through every interaction he'd had with Claire over the past 3 years like they were clues to a mystery he'd been too stupid to solve. The way she always seemed to know when he'd had a rough day. The way she paid attention to what Emma liked, remembered details about his work, asked questions that suggested she actually cared about the answers. The way she looked at him sometimes when she thought he wasn't paying attention. How had he missed it? Or had he missed it? Maybe part of him had known all along and just chosen not to acknowledge it because acknowledging it would mean dealing with it, and Daniel Brooks was excellent at not dealing with things. Around 3 a.m., Emma crawled into his bed. "Can't sleep," she mumbled, burrowing under his arm. "Me neither, Bug." "Why not?" "Grown-up stuff." "Is it about your date?" "Sort of." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Did Rachel not like you?" "I think she liked me fine. We just weren't a good match, so." "Oh." Another pause. "Are you sad?" Was he? Daniel tried to inventory his feelings and came up empty. Not sad, not relieved, just untethered, like someone had cut a rope he didn't know he was holding on to. "I'm okay," he said. Emma snuggled closer. "I think Claire would be a better match." Daniel's breath caught. "Why do you say that?" "Because she already loves us." The simple certainty in her voice nearly broke him. She does, I can tell. She makes that face." "What face?" "The face like..." Emma scrunched up her features in an exaggerated expression of fondness. "Like she thinks we're the best thing ever." Daniel stared at his daughter in the darkness, this tiny person who saw things he'd trained himself not to see. "Go to sleep, Bug. Will you talk to Claire tomorrow?" "Maybe." "You should. She was sad today." "How do you know that?" "I saw her when Mrs. Palmer picked me up. She was sitting on her porch, and she looked like how I look when you say I can't have more cookies." Great. Now he was making everyone miserable. Emma fell asleep within minutes, her small body warm against his side. Daniel stayed awake, watching the early morning light creep across the ceiling, trying to figure out what came next. Because something had to come next. You couldn't just ignore a confession like that. You couldn't pretend everything was normal when normal had been redefined in the space of 5 minutes. Claire loved him. Claire had loved him for a year, maybe more, while he'd been sleepwalking through his life, too scared or too stubborn or too damaged to notice. And now he had to decide what to do about it. Friday morning arrived with the kind of gray, heavy sky that threatened snow. Daniel made Emma breakfast, got her ready for school, handed her off to Mrs. Palmer for the after-school pickup. Normal Friday routine. Everything the same except nothing was the same. Claire's car wasn't in her driveway. Night shift, probably. Or maybe she was avoiding him, which would be fair. Daniel went to work, climbed through crawl spaces, connected circuits, tried not to think about blue eyes and a breaking voice saying, "I'm in love with you." He failed spectacularly. His coworker, Mike, the one who'd set up the date, cornered him during lunch. "So? How'd it go with Rachel?" "It didn't." "What happened?" "We weren't compatible." Mike frowned. "You gave up after one date?" "It wasn't giving up, it was recognizing reality." "Man, you can't keep doing this. You can't keep shutting down every option that comes your way." Daniel set down his sandwich. "I'm not shutting down options. I'm being honest about what I want." "Which is what?" Good question. What did Daniel Brooks want? For 3 years, the answer had been simple. Stability. Safety. A quiet life where nothing hurt because nothing got too close. He'd built a fortress of routine around himself and Emma, and it had worked. It had kept them protected. But somewhere along the way, Claire Bennett had slipped past the walls. And now she was standing in the middle of his carefully constructed fortress, asking him to acknowledge her presence. "I don't know," Daniel admitted. Mike shook his head. "You're going to end up alone. You know that?" "Maybe." "Is that what you want?" Daniel thought about Emma asking if Claire was coming over, about Thursday afternoons and shared beers on the porch, about comfort and laughter and someone who showed up. "No," he said quietly. "That's not what I want." He got home at 6 to find Emma watching TV and Mrs. Palmer looking concerned. "Everything all right?" he asked. "Miss Claire stopped by earlier. She wanted to drop off some things she'd borrowed, measuring cups, I think, but she seemed upset. I asked if she wanted to wait for you, but she said no." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Did she say anything else?" "Just that she wouldn't be needing the washer anymore. that she'd found another solution. Of course, she was cutting ties, removing herself from his life to make it easier for both of them. It was the logical thing to do, the kind thing to do. It felt like amputation. "Thanks for telling me," Daniel managed. Mrs. Palmer left, and Daniel stood in his kitchen trying to figure out what he was supposed to do now. Go over there? Give her space? Wait until the weekend? Emma solved the problem by appearing at his elbow. "Is Claire mad at us?" "No, Bug, she's not mad." "Then why isn't she coming over anymore?" "It's complicated." "That's what you always say when you don't want to explain." Smart kid. Too smart. "Claire and I need to have a grown-up conversation," he said carefully, "but it's not your fault, and she's not mad at you." Emma considered this. "Are you scared?" The question caught him off guard. "Of what?" "Of talking to Claire. You look scared." Daniel knelt down to her level. "Yeah, I am a little scared." "Why?" "Because sometimes the important conversations are the scary ones, but you still have to have them." Emma nodded solemnly. "Like when I had to tell you I broke your lamp." "Exactly like that. But I felt better after I told you, even though I got in trouble." "You're very wise, you know that?" She grinned. "I know." Daniel waited until Emma was asleep. Then he waited another 30 minutes, pacing his living room, rehearsing and discarding a dozen different opening lines. Finally, at 9:30, he walked across the grass to Claire's door and knocked. No answer. He knocked again, harder. The door opened. Claire stood there in scrubs, her hair wet like she'd just showered. She looked exhausted and guarded and not at all happy to see him. "It's late," she said. "I know. Can we talk?" "I don't think that's a good idea." "Claire, please." She hesitated, then stepped back. 5 minutes. He followed her inside to the same living room where his world had tilted off its axis 24 hours ago. Claire didn't sit, neither did he. "I'm sorry," he started. "For what?" "For running out yesterday, for not saying anything, for—" "Daniel, stop." Her voice was firm. "You don't owe me an apology. I put you in an impossible position, and you reacted the way anyone would. It's fine." "It's not fine, and I do owe you an explanation." "You don't. You went on your date, and that was your answer. I get it." "The date lasted an hour." Claire blinked. "What?" "I couldn't focus. Couldn't think about anything except what you said. Rachel knew it wasn't working, so we called it early." He took a breath. "I haven't been able to think about anything else since you told me." She crossed her arms, defensive. "And what conclusion did you come to?" "That I've been an idiot." "That's not a conclusion. That's self-flagellation. Claire, listen to me." Her eyes were bright. "I don't want your guilt or your pity or your sense of obligation. I told you how I felt because I needed you to know, but that doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. You're allowed to not feel the same way. You're allowed to want someone else. You're allowed to keep living your life exactly how it was." "What if I don't want to?" The question hung between them. Claire's expression shifted. Confusion, hope, fear, all playing across her features. "What are you saying?" she whispered. Daniel moved closer, not touching her, but close enough to see the pulse beating in her throat. "I'm saying I don't know what I feel yet. I'm saying I need time to figure it out. I'm saying the thought of you not being in my life anymore made me feel like I couldn't breathe." He paused. "I'm saying I think you might be right, and I've been too scared to look at it." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "You think I might be right about what?" "About there being something here, between us." "Daniel, don't do this unless you mean it. I can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't be your experiment. I can't be the thing you try because you feel bad." "You're not. You're not an experiment, Claire. You're—" He struggled for words. "You're the person who shows up. You're the person Emma asks about. You're the person I think about when I'm having a shit day because I know you'll understand. You're—" She kissed him. It was sudden and desperate and tasted like salt from her tears. Daniel froze for half a second before his brain caught up, and then he was kissing her back, his hands coming up to frame her face while she gripped the front of his shirt like she was afraid he'd disappear. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Claire's eyes were wide. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I shouldn't have—" "Don't apologize." "But I didn't ask, and you said you needed time. Claire. He rested his forehead against hers. Stop apologizing for wanting me. She let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. This is insane. Yeah. I can't believe I just kissed you. I can't believe it took you this long. That startled another laugh out of her, and Daniel felt something in his chest loosen. This was what he'd been missing without knowing it. The ease, the rightness, the sense that maybe he wasn't as alone as he'd convinced himself he needed to be. What happens now? Claire asked. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing. That makes two of us. They stood there, foreheads touching, breathing each other's air. Outside, the first snow of the season had started to fall. I need to go slow, Daniel said finally. Emma has to be okay with this, and I need to figure out what this even is before I can… I know. We can go slow. And I'm going to mess up. I'm going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or… Daniel! Claire pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Shut up and kiss me again. So he did. And for the first time in 3 years, Daniel Brooks let himself feel something other than safe. Daniel woke up Saturday morning with Emma's elbow in his ribs and the strange, disorienting sensation that the world had fundamentally rearranged itself while he slept. He lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, trying to reconcile the man who'd kissed Claire Bennett last night with the man who'd spent 3 years avoiding exactly that kind of complication. They hadn't stayed up much longer after that second kiss. Claire had pulled back, her face flushed, and said something about needing to be up early for a shift. Daniel had nodded, understanding that they both needed space to process what had just happened. He'd walked home through the falling snow, his lips still tingling, his heart doing things it hadn't done in years. Now, in the gray morning light, panic was starting to creep in around the edges. Emma stirred beside him, yawned, then opened her eyes. It's Saturday. It is. Can we have pancakes? Yeah, Bug, we can have pancakes. She scrambled out of bed, already chattering about syrup and chocolate chips, while Daniel hauled himself upright and tried to figure out what he was supposed to do now. Call Claire? Text her? Pretend last night hadn't happened and wait for her to make the next move? His phone sat on the nightstand, silent. No messages, no missed calls. Maybe she was regretting it. Maybe she'd woken up and realized that kissing your emotionally unavailable neighbor was a terrible idea. Maybe… Daddy, you're making that face. Daniel looked down to find Emma staring at him from the doorway, her expression concerned. What face? The worried face, like when the truck won't start. I'm fine, Em, just tired. She didn't look convinced but let it drop, disappearing toward the kitchen. Daniel followed, pulling on a sweatshirt against the morning chill. Through the window he could see Claire's driveway. Her car was gone. Early shift, like she'd said. He tried not to feel disappointed. Pancakes took longer than they should have because Emma insisted on helping, which meant batter ended up on every surface, and the first 3 attempts burned while Daniel's attention wandered. They ate at the small kitchen table, Emma swinging her legs and talking about a classmate's birthday party next week. Can I go, please? When is it? Next Saturday. At that place with the trampolines. Daniel made a mental note to check his schedule. We'll see. That means yes, right? It means we'll see. She grinned at him, syrup on her chin, and Daniel felt a wave of fierce love for this kid who'd been his entire world for so long. Whatever happened with Claire, whatever this new thing was, Emma had to come first. She had to be okay with it, had to feel safe, had to know that nothing would change the fundamental fact of them. His phone buzzed. Daniel grabbed it too quickly, then felt stupid when he saw it was just Mike asking about covering a Sunday shift. Not Claire. He set the phone down and focused on finishing breakfast. The morning passed in the usual Saturday rhythm: cartoons, laundry, a trip to the grocery store where Emma convinced him to buy the cereal with the toy inside even though she never ate it. Normal life, continuing as if Daniel's entire internal landscape hadn't been rearranged. They got home around noon. Daniel was unloading groceries when he heard Emma's voice from the living room, high and excited. Claire, you're here! His heart stopped, then started again faster. He walked into the living room to find Claire standing in the doorway, still in her scrubs, holding a casserole dish. Emma was already attached to her leg like a barnacle. Hi, Claire said, meeting his eyes over Emma's head. Sorry to just show up. I made too much food and thought you guys might want some. We want some, Emma declared. What is it? Lasagna, but it's still hot, so you have to wait. Daniel found his voice. You didn't have to do that. I know. I wanted to. Something passed between them. An acknowledgement of last night, of everything unsaid. Can I come in, or are you going to make me stand in the doorway? Come in, please. She stepped inside, and Emma finally released her leg. Claire moved to the kitchen, set the casserole on the counter, and turned to face him. She looked tired, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, faint shadows under her eyes. Beautiful in a way that made Daniel's chest ache. How was your shift? He asked. Long, understaffed, the usual chaos. She glanced at Emma, who was examining the lasagna with intense interest. Can we talk for a minute? Yeah, Em, go play in your room for a bit, okay? But 10 minutes, then you can come back down. Emma trudged toward the stairs with the dramatic resignation of someone being sent to prison. Claire waited until they heard the bedroom door close, then let out a breath. I wasn't sure if I should come over. I'm glad you did. Are you? She searched his face. Because I woke up this morning convinced I'd ruined everything, that I'd pushed too hard and you were going to spend the rest of your life avoiding me. Daniel moved closer, stopping just short of touching her. I'm not avoiding you. You didn't call. You didn't call either. I was working. I didn't know what to say. Claire's expression softened. Yeah, me neither. They stood there, a foot apart, the space between them charged with everything they weren't saying. Daniel could hear Emma's footsteps overhead, the creak of her bedroom floor. Normal sounds in a house that suddenly felt different. I meant what I said last night, he said quietly. About needing to go slow. About Emma being the priority. I know. But I also meant the other part. About wanting to figure out what this is. Claire's eyes searched his. And what do you think it is? I don't know yet. Something new. Something that scares me. He reached out, brushed a strand of hair from her face. Something that might be worth being scared for. She caught his hand, held it against her cheek. I can work with that. Can you? Because I'm going to mess this up, Claire. I'm going to overthink and pull back and probably hurt you without meaning to. Probably. And you're okay with that? I didn't say I was okay with it. I said I can work with it. She turned her head, pressed a kiss to his palm. I've loved you for over a year, Daniel. I'm not expecting perfection. I'm just asking for honesty. The word love still felt too big, too heavy. But the way she said it, casual, matter-of-fact, like it was simply true, made it seem less terrifying. I can try, he said. That's all I want. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Emma appeared, breathless. Has it been 10 minutes? Close enough, Daniel said, stepping back from Claire. Emma didn't seem to notice the charged atmosphere, just launched into a detailed explanation of the toy she'd been playing with upstairs. Claire listened with genuine interest, asking questions, laughing at Emma's dramatic reenactments. Watching them together, Daniel felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't new, he realized. This dynamic, Claire engaging with Emma, Emma lighting up in Claire's presence, had been building for months. He'd just been too stubborn or too scared to see it. Can Claire stay for lunch? Emma asked suddenly. Daniel looked at Claire. Can you? I should probably sleep. I've been up for 18 hours. Please? Emma deployed her most effective weapon, the big eyes. Claire glanced at Daniel, a question in her expression. He nodded slightly. Okay, she said, but just for a little while. Emma cheered and ran to get plates. Claire moved closer to Daniel, her voice low. Is this okay? Me being here with Emma? Yeah, it's good. She's been asking about you. Has she? Constantly. I think you're her favorite person. Claire's smile was soft. She's pretty high on my list, too. They ate lasagna at the kitchen table, Emma dominating the conversation with stories from school, observations about her classmates, theories about why snow was white. Claire engaged with all of it, never talking down to her, treating her questions like they mattered. Daniel mostly watched, trying to reconcile this scene with the fortress he'd built around his life. It felt dangerous, letting someone in this far, but it also felt right in a way he couldn't deny. After lunch, Claire's eyes were drooping. Daniel walked her to the door while Emma cleared the table with uncharacteristic helpfulness. Thank you, he said, for the food, for staying. Thank you for letting me. When's your next shift? Monday night. I'm off tomorrow. Maybe we could do something, the three of us. If you want. Claire's face lit up. Really? Yeah, Emma's been asking to go to the park. We could make it a thing. I'd like that. She leaned in, and for a moment Daniel thought she was going to kiss him, but she seemed to think better of it with Emma in the next room, just squeezed his hand instead. Get some sleep, he said. You too. You look exhausted. I didn't sleep much last night. Me neither. She left, and Daniel stood in the doorway watching her cross to her house. She turned at her door, waved, and something warm unfurled in his chest. Emma appeared at his elbow. Is Claire your girlfriend now? Direct hit. Daniel closed the door, trying to figure out how to answer. I don't know yet, Bug. We're figuring things out. But you like her, right? Yeah, I like her. Good. Me too. Emma paused. Does this mean she'll come over more? Maybe. Would that be okay with you? Emma considered this with the seriousness of a judge. Will she still be nice to me? Of course. And you'll still have time for just us? Daniel's throat tightened. Always. No matter what happens with Claire, you're my priority. You and me, that doesn't change. Emma nodded, satisfied. Okay then. I think it's good. You do? Yeah, you smile more when she's here, and she makes really good lasagna. Leave it to a 5-year-old to cut through all the complexity and get to the heart of things. Sunday dawned cold and clear. Daniel texted Claire at 9, half expecting her to back out, but she responded immediately with enthusiasm and too many exclamation points. They agreed to meet at the park at 11. Emma spent the intervening hours in a state of excited chaos, changing her outfit 3 times and insisting that Daniel wear the nice jacket, not the work one. He complied, amused by her sudden interest in his wardrobe. Why does it matter what I wear to the park? Because Claire will see you. Claire's seen me in work clothes 100 times. But this is different. This is a date. It's not a date. We're going to the park. Emma gave him a look that suggested she knew better. It's a date, Daddy. Maybe she was right. Daniel didn't know the rules anymore. Wasn't sure where the line was between friendly outing and something more intentional. He settled on jeans and the jacket Emma approved of, ran a hand through his hair, and tried not to feel like a teenager. Claire was waiting at the park entrance when they arrived, wearing jeans and a blue sweater that matched her eyes. She'd done something different with her hair, left it down, soft waves framing her face, and Daniel had to remind himself that Emma was watching. Hi, Claire said, smiling at both of them. Hi. Emma grabbed her hand. Come on, I want to show you the good swings. She dragged Claire toward the playground, leaving Daniel to follow. The park was busier than he'd expected for a cold November morning. Families bundled against the chill, kids running wild, the sound of laughter and shouting carrying on the wind. Daniel found a bench with a view of the swings and settled in to watch. Claire was pushing Emma, who was shrieking with delight, demanding to go higher. The scene was so normal, so domestic, that it made Daniel's chest ache. She's good with kids. Daniel turned to find an older woman on the next bench smiling at him. Yeah, she is. Your wife? The question caught him off guard. Oh, no, we're just... What were they, friends? More than friends? We're figuring it out. The woman's smile widened. Well, from where I'm sitting, it looks pretty figured out. She wandered off before Daniel could respond, leaving him to sit with that observation. Did it look figured out? From the outside, did they seem like a family, the kind of unit he'd stopped believing was possible? Claire caught his eye across the playground, waved. Emma was hanging upside down from the monkey bars now, defying gravity and parental anxiety. Daniel waved back and Claire left Emma to her gymnastics, crossing to the bench. She's fearless, Claire said, sitting beside him. She's going to give me a heart attack. Probably, but she's having fun. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Emma conquer every piece of equipment with the confidence of a seasoned parkgoer. Other parents came and went, kids rotated through the play structures, and the sun climbed higher in a sky so blue it hurt to look at. This is nice, Claire said quietly. Yeah. Is it weird? Daniel considered. A little, but good weird. I keep waiting for it to feel wrong, like I'm overstepping or inserting myself where I don't belong. He turned to look at her. You belong here, Claire. Do I? Emma thinks so. And Emma's usually right about people. Claire's smile was soft. What about you? What do you think? I think I'm still figuring it out, but I think... He paused, choosing words carefully. I think maybe you've belonged here for a while, and I was too stubborn to see it. She reached over, laced her fingers through his. The touch was easy, natural, like they'd been doing it for years instead of days. We should probably talk about logistics, she said. Logistics? Like what we tell people, how we handle this in front of Emma, whether we're keeping it quiet or... I don't want to keep it quiet. Claire blinked. You don't? No, I'm not going to broadcast it, but I'm not going to hide it either. He squeezed her hand. Emma knows something's different. I'm not going to lie to her about it. And other people? Your family? Your coworkers? Daniel hadn't thought that far ahead. His sister would have opinions, she always did. His coworkers would make jokes. His mother would probably start planning a wedding before the first month was out. We'll deal with them as they come up, he said. Right now, I just want to focus on this, on us figuring out what we are. Claire nodded slowly. Okay, I can work with that. Emma ran over, breathless and pink-cheeked. I'm hungry. You're always hungry, Daniel said. Can we get hot chocolate? There's a coffee shop across the street, Claire offered. They have good hot chocolate and those cookies with the chocolate chips. Emma's eyes lit up. Can we, Daddy? Please? How was he supposed to say no to that face? They walked to the coffee shop, Emma between them, holding both their hands and swinging her arms like she was conducting an orchestra. Inside the shop was warm and crowded, smelling of espresso and cinnamon. They found a table by the window, and Claire went to order while Daniel and Emma claimed the seats. This is fun, Emma said, kicking her legs under the table. Yeah? Yeah, it feels like when we're all together, things are better. What do you mean? She scrunched up her face, thinking. Like you laugh more. And I don't have to worry about you being sad. Daniel's heart clenched. I'm not sad, Bug. Not now. But sometimes you are. I can tell. He hadn't realized she'd noticed. Hadn't thought about how his grief, his loneliness, might be visible to a 5-year-old who watched everything. I'm doing better, he said carefully. Especially lately. Because of Claire? Maybe. Partly. Emma nodded like this made perfect sense. I think she makes you happy, like how ice cream makes me happy. Daniel laughed despite himself. I'm not sure that's the same thing. Why not? Happy is happy. Claire returned with their drinks. Hot chocolate for Emma, coffee for the adults. She'd gotten a cookie the size of a plate and broken it into pieces for sharing. They sat together in the window, watching people pass on the street, not talking much, just existing in each other's space. It was the kind of moment Daniel had stopped letting himself hope for. Simple, easy, right. His phone rang. His sister Karen. I should take this, he said apologetically. Claire nodded and he stepped outside into the cold. Hey. Hey yourself, I haven't heard from you in a week. Everything okay? Yeah, everything's good. You sound weird. What's going on? Daniel watched through the window as Claire helped Emma with her hot chocolate, wiping foam from her nose. I'm kind of seeing someone. Silence. Then, you're what? Seeing someone, dating. I don't know what to call it. Daniel Brooks is dating. Mark the calendars. Who is she? My neighbor. Claire. The one who does laundry at your house? That's her. More silence, this time thoughtful. How long? Like 2 days. Karen laughed. 2 days and you're already calling me about it? This must be serious. I don't know if it's serious. I don't know what it is. How does Emma feel about it? She's thrilled. They're having hot chocolate right now. You took Emma on your date? It's not a date. We're at the park. That's definitely a date, little brother. Daniel leaned against the building, watching his breath fog in the cold air. Karen, I have no idea what I'm doing. That's okay. Nobody does. I don't want to screw this up. Then don't. Helpful. She laughed again. Look, from what you've told me about Claire, she sounds great. And if Emma likes her, that's huge. You just take it one day at a time and stop overthinking. I'm not overthinking. You absolutely are. I can hear it in your voice. She paused. I'm happy for you, Dan. Really. You deserve this. I don't know if deserve has anything to do with it. Well, I think it does. Now go back to your not date and stop hiding outside. He hung up and headed back in. Claire looked up as he slid into his seat, a question in her eyes. My sister, he explained. She says hi. You told her? Yeah. Is that okay? Claire's smile was warm. Yeah, that's more than okay. Emma had chocolate on her face and her hands and somehow in her hair. Daniel wiped her down with napkins while she protested, then gave up when he realized it was a losing battle. They'd do a full cleanup at home. The afternoon stretched out in lazy comfort. They walked back to the park, then to the duck pond where Emma threw breadcrumbs despite the sign that said not to. Claire didn't lecture her, just quietly redirected her to watching instead, and Emma complied without argument. You're good at that, Daniel observed. At what? Redirecting her without making her feel bad. I work with kids in the ER sometimes. You learn to choose your battles. They found another bench, this one overlooking the pond. Emma ran ahead, chasing geese that honked indignantly at her approach. Can I ask you something? Claire said. Sure. What happened with Emma's mom? The question didn't surprise him. It had been hovering in the background since Friday night. She left when Emma was 2, said she wasn't ready to be a mother, that she'd made a mistake. I'm sorry. I was angry for a long time, not even about her leaving me, but about her leaving Emma. What kind of person walks away from their kid? A scared one, maybe. Daniel looked at her. You're more generous than I am. I'm not defending what she did, just saying that people do terrible things when they're afraid. Claire's voice was careful. Do you still love her? No, I don't think I ever really did, to be honest. We got together young, got pregnant, tried to make it work because it seemed like the right thing, but the foundation was never solid. And now? Now I'm trying to build something real, with someone who actually wants to be here. He met her eyes. With you. Claire's breath caught. Daniel, I know I said I needed time to figure things out, and I do. But I also know that I haven't felt this sure about something in years. So if you're asking whether I'm all in, the answer is yes. Terrified, but all in. She kissed him then, right there on the bench with Emma 20 feet away and a dozen strangers around. It was quick, soft, a promise more than a declaration. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. I'm all in too. Emma came running over, oblivious to what she'd missed. Can we go home now? I'm cold. Yeah, Bug, let's go home. They walked back together, Emma between them again, talking about the geese and the ducks and whether animals got cold in winter. Daniel half listened, his mind on Claire's hand in his, on the way she fit into his life like she'd always been there. At the house, Claire hesitated. I should probably head back. Or you could stay for dinner, Daniel offered. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti or something. Emma tugged on Claire's sleeve. Please stay. Daddy's spaghetti is good. Is it? It's adequate, Daniel admitted. Well, adequate spaghetti sounds perfect. They cooked together, Claire chopping vegetables while Daniel boiled water and Emma set the table with exaggerated care. The kitchen felt crowded in the best way, full of warmth and movement, and the kind of domestic chaos Daniel had stopped expecting. You're getting sauce on your shirt, Claire pointed out. Story of my life. She moved closer, dabbed at the spot with a towel, and Daniel caught her wrist gently. Thank you. For pointing out the sauce? For being here. For saying yes to this. Thank you for asking. They ate at the kitchen table, Emma regaling them with a long, complicated story about a playground dispute that Daniel only half followed. Afterward, Claire helped with dishes while Emma played in the living room, her energy finally flagging. I should really go, Claire said, drying the last plate. I have to be up early tomorrow. Okay. But neither of them moved. They stood in the kitchen, the space between them charged with everything they'd said and everything they hadn't. This weekend was good, Claire said softly. Yeah, it was. I don't want it to end. It doesn't have to. We'll just keep going. She smiled. One day at a time? One day at a time. Daniel walked her to the door. Emma came over for a hug, wrapping her arms around Claire's waist. Will you come over again soon? Emma asked. If your dad says it's okay, it's okay, Daniel said immediately. Emma grinned, satisfied, and ran back to her toys. Claire looked up at Daniel, something vulnerable in her expression. I'm scared, she admitted, that I'm going to wake up and this will have been a dream. I'm scared too, but I think maybe that means it matters. Yeah. She stood on her toes, kissed him quickly. Good night, Daniel. Good night. He watched her walk home through the gathering dark, waited until she was safely inside before closing the door. Emma was on the couch, already half asleep, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. Come on, Bug. Bedtime. She didn't protest, just let him carry her upstairs, brush her teeth, tuck her in. As he was about to leave, she grabbed his hand. Daddy? Yeah? I'm glad Claire's here now. Me too, Em. She going to stay? The question was too big, too complicated, but Emma's eyes were serious, waiting for truth. I hope so, Daniel said. But nothing's promised, you know. Sometimes things don't work out the way we want. But you're going to try, right, to make it work out? Yeah, I'm going to try really hard. Emma nodded, satisfied. Okay, that's all you can do. She rolled over, already drifting off, while Daniel sat on the edge of her bed trying to figure out when his daughter had gotten so wise. He stayed there until her breathing evened out, then retreated to his own room. His phone was lighting up with messages. His sister wanting details, Mike making jokes, his mother asking why she had to hear about his dating life from Karen instead of him. But there was also a text from Claire, sent 5 minutes ago. Thank you for today, for letting me in. I know it's scary. It's scary for me too. But I think we're going to be okay. Daniel stared at the message, at those simple words that somehow meant everything. Then he typed back. I think so too. Sleep well. Her response came immediately. You too. See you soon. He set the phone down and lay back, staring at the ceiling in the dark. His life had been so carefully controlled for so long, every variable managed, every risk minimized, every possible hurt anticipated and avoided. And then Claire Bennett had stood in her living room and said, I'm in love with you. And all that careful control had shattered like glass. The scary part wasn't that it had shattered. The scary part was that Daniel didn't want to put it back together. He wanted this instead. The mess and the uncertainty and the terrifying possibility that something real might actually work out. One day at a time, Claire had said. Daniel could do one day at a time. He rolled over, closed his eyes, and for the first time in 3 years, let himself hope. Monday morning arrived with freezing rain and a job site 40 minutes away. Daniel kissed Emma goodbye, reminded Mrs. Palmer about the dentist appointment on Wednesday, and drove through the sleet trying not to think about the fact that he hadn't seen Claire since Sunday night. She'd texted yesterday, quick messages between her errands and his attempt to fix the leaking sink, but it wasn't the same as being in the same room. He was halfway to the site when his phone rang. Claire's name lit up the screen. Hey, he answered, something warm spreading through his chest. Hey yourself, are you driving? Yeah, but I've got Bluetooth. What's up? There was a pause, and Daniel could hear traffic noise on her end. I just wanted to hear your voice before my shift. Is that weird? No, it's not weird. Good, because I've been thinking about you all morning, and it's making me stupid. I put orange juice in my coffee. Daniel laughed. How was it? Terrible. Do not recommend. She sighed. I miss you already. Is that pathetic? If it is, then we're both pathetic. I've been checking my phone every 5 minutes like a teenager. Really? Really? He could hear the smile in her voice. Okay, that makes me feel better. Listen, I know you're working, so I'll let you go. But maybe after Emma's asleep tonight, we could talk? Just on the phone? I'd like that. Okay, be safe today. You too. She hung up, and Daniel drove the rest of the way to the site with a stupid grin on his face that he couldn't quite shake. His coworker Mike noticed immediately. You look different. I look the same. Nah, man, you look like you got laid. Daniel almost choked. We haven't, it's not like that. Mike's eyebrows shot up. So there is a spill. There's nothing to spill. I'm seeing someone. It's new. The neighbor? How did you... See, your sister told my wife, who told me. Small world. Mike grinned. So it's serious? I don't know. Maybe. We're taking it slow. Does Emma know? Yeah, she's actually the one who pushed for it, in her own weird way. Mike clapped him on the shoulder. Good for you, man. About time you stopped hiding. The words stuck with Daniel as they worked through the morning. Hiding. Was that what he'd been doing for 3 years? Building walls and calling it protection, avoiding connection and calling it focus? Maybe. Probably. The rain turned to snow around lunch. Daniel ate a sandwich in the truck, checking his phone even though he knew Claire would be asleep by now. She worked nights, which meant their schedules were about to get complicated. He'd have to figure out how to see her between his day shifts and her night ones, how to make time when time was already stretched thin. It would be worth it, though. He was starting to understand that. The afternoon dragged. Daniel's hands were numb by the time they packed up at 4, his clothes soaked through despite the rain gear. He drove home faster than he should have, eager for dry clothes and Emma's chatter, and the possibility of hearing Claire's voice later. Mrs. Palmer met him at the door with a strange expression. Everything okay? Daniel asked. Emma's fine, but you had a visitor earlier. His stomach dropped. Who? A woman. Said her name was Sarah. The world tilted. Daniel grabbed the doorframe, his wet boots squeaking on the floor. Sarah was here? She wanted to see Emma. I told her I couldn't let her in without your permission, and she left. But Daniel, she seemed pretty upset. She said she'd come back. His mind was racing. Sarah, Emma's mother, the woman who'd walked out 3 years ago without a backward glance. What the hell was she doing here? Did Emma see her? No, I kept her in the living room, but she heard us talking and asked who it was. I told her it was someone selling something. Thank you. Daniel's voice sounded distant to his own ears. Did Sarah say anything else? Just that she needed to talk to you, that it was important. Mrs. Palmer hesitated. She looked different than I remember. Thinner, tired. Daniel nodded mechanically, paid her, watched her leave. Then he stood in the hallway trying to figure out how to process this. Emma appeared, covered in marker. Daddy, look what I drew! She held up a picture of stick figures, 3 of them. 1 tall, 1 medium, 1 small. Daniel recognized himself and Emma immediately. The 3rd figure had yellow hair. Who's that? He asked, though he already knew. Claire, it's our family. The innocence of it nearly broke him. Emma thought they were a family now. Her, Daniel, and Claire. And maybe they were becoming that, in their own fragile, tentative way. But Sarah's reappearance threatened to shatter everything. It's beautiful, Bug. Let's put it on the fridge. They went through the evening routine, dinner, bath, bedtime story. Emma chattered about her day, oblivious to the storm brewing in Daniel's mind. When she finally fell asleep, he retreated to the living room and stared at his phone. He should call Claire. She'd be awake by now, getting ready for her shift. But what would he say? That his ex had shown up out of nowhere? That everything suddenly felt unstable again? The phone rang before he could decide. Claire. Hi, he answered. Hi. You sound weird. What's wrong? Nothing. Long day. Daniel. Her voice was gentle but firm. Don't do that. Don't shut me out when something's bothering you. He closed his eyes. Emma's mother showed up today. Silence. Then, what? She came to the house while I was at work. Mrs. Palmer turned her away, but she said she'd be back. Jesus, are you okay? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what this means. What do you think it means? I have no idea. She hasn't contacted us in 3 years. Hasn't sent a card, a gift, a text, nothing. And now suddenly she shows up? He could hear Claire breathing on the other end, could picture her processing this news in that careful way she had. What do you want to do? She asked. I don't know that either. Part of me wants to tell her to go to hell, but part of me thinks Emma deserves to know her mother if Sarah actually wants to be in her life now. And what about what you deserve? The question caught him off guard. What do you mean? You've been raising Emma alone for 3 years. You've built a life, created stability. Sarah doesn't get to just walk back in and disrupt that without consequences. She's still Emma's mother. Being a mother is more than biology, Daniel. It's showing up. It's being there. His voice cracked slightly. It's what you've been doing every single day. He wanted to reach through the phone and hold her. I'm scared. Of what? That she'll want Emma back, that she'll take her away, that I'll lose everything I've built. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. You're right. I don't. But I know that Emma loves you, that you're a good father, that you have rights. She paused. And I know that I'm not going anywhere, no matter what happens with Sarah. The words settled over him like a blanket. You mean that? Yeah, I mean that. We're in this together now, Daniel. The scary parts, too. He let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You let me use your washer. Her tone lightened. And you kiss pretty well, for someone out of practice. That pulled a laugh out of him despite everything. Thanks, I think. Listen, I have to go to work in 20 minutes, but call me tomorrow. Let me know what happens. Yeah, I will. And Daniel, whatever you decide about Sarah, I support you. Just don't make the decision alone, okay? Talk to me. Let me help. After they hung up, Daniel sat in the dark trying to organize his thoughts. Sarah was back. That was the reality, whether he was ready for it or not. He'd have to deal with her, figure out what she wanted, decide how much access she'd have to Emma. But he didn't have to do it alone. That was new. That was Claire. He went to bed late, slept badly, and woke up Tuesday with a sense of impending disaster. Emma was unusually quiet over breakfast, pushing her cereal around the bowl. What's wrong, Bug? Nothing. Em. She looked up, her expression troubled. Mrs.? Palmer said someone came yesterday, but she lied about who it was. Daniel's heart sank. How do you know? I heard her. She said Sarah, and she sounded worried. There was no point lying. Emma was too smart, and lies had a way of making things worse. You're right. Someone did come yesterday. Her name is Sarah. Like my mom's name? It was your mom. Emma's eyes went wide. My mom came here? Yes. Why? I don't know yet. I haven't talked to her. Emma set down her spoon, her face scrunched up in concentration. Is she coming back? She might be. Do I have to see her? The question surprised him. Do you want to? Emma shrugged, but Daniel could see the fear underneath. I don't remember her. I know. Will she be mad that I don't remember? Daniel moved around the table, pulled Emma into his lap. No one's going to be mad at you. Whatever happens, you're safe, you're loved, and nothing changes between you and me. She buried her face in his shirt. Promise? Promise. They sat like that for a long time, until Emma's breathing evened out and she pulled back with red eyes. Can I go to school now? Yeah, Bug. Let's go. The drive was quiet. Daniel walked Emma to her classroom, hugged her longer than usual, then headed to work with a knot in his stomach that wouldn't loosen. He was on a ladder-running wire when his phone rang. Unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered. Hello? Daniel, it's Sarah. Her voice was the same, slightly hoarse, with that particular inflection he'd once found charming and now just found grating. Daniel climbed down the ladder, walked outside into the cold. How did you get this number? It's the same one you've always had. What do you want? I want to talk, to see Emma. I know I don't have the right to ask. You're right, you don't. Daniel, please. I made a mistake, a huge mistake, and I'm trying to fix it. He laughed, harsh. You can't fix 3 years of absence with a phone call, Sarah. I know that. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking for a chance to be in my daughter's life. She's 5 years old. She doesn't remember you. Then let me help her remember. Let me show her that I'm here now. Daniel wanted to hang up. Wanted to tell her that she'd made her choice and now she had to live with it. But there was something in her voice, desperation maybe, or genuine regret, that made him hesitate. Why now? He asked. What changed? Sarah was quiet for a moment. I got sober 6 months ago, and when I did, I realized how much I'd lost, how much I threw away. Her voice cracked. I'm not asking you to take me back or to trust me or to let me be a mother overnight. I'm just asking to meet her, to start somewhere. Daniel closed his eyes. I need to think about it. Okay, that's fair. Can I call you tomorrow? I'll call you, if I decide this is a good idea. Thank you, Daniel. I really am sorry for everything. He hung up without responding, stood in the cold trying to process what had just happened. Sarah was sober. Sarah wanted back in. Sarah was sorry. None of it changed the past, but it might change the future. His phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "How are you holding up?" He typed back, "She called. Wants to see Emma." Claire's response came immediately. "What did you say?" "That I'd think about it. Do you want to talk?" "I can call on my break. Yeah, that would be good." 20 minutes later, his phone rang. Claire sounded tired but alert, her voice cutting through the chaos in his head. "Tell me what you're thinking," she said. "I'm thinking that Emma deserves to know her mother. But I'm also thinking that Sarah doesn't deserve Emma. Those can both be true. I'm scared of letting her in and having her leave again. Emma's just starting to understand what happened. If Sarah shows up and then disappears, it would devastate her," Claire finished. "I know, but you can't protect Emma from every possible hurt, Daniel. Sometimes the risk is worth it. What if it's not? Then you'll be there to pick up the pieces, like you always are." She paused. "What does your gut say?" Daniel thought about it. His gut said that Sarah sounded different, that 6 months of sobriety was real work, that people could change. His gut also said that trust had to be earned and that Emma's well-being came before Sarah's redemption. "I think I want to meet with her first, without Emma, see if she's serious." "That sounds reasonable." "And I want you there." Silence. "Daniel, I need you there, Claire. You see things I don't. You'll know if she's lying." "Are you sure?" "That's a lot to ask." "I'm sure." He could hear her breathing, considering. "Okay, if you want me there, I'll be there." "Thank you." "When are you thinking? Tomorrow night, after Emma's asleep?" "I'll make it work." They talked for a few more minutes before Claire had to go back to work. Daniel returned to the job site with a plan forming in his mind. Meet Sarah. Assess the situation. Decide from there. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. He picked up Emma from school that afternoon, took her for ice cream even though it was freezing, and watched her demolish a sundae while talking about her friend's new puppy. "Daddy, can we get a puppy?" "We've talked about this, Em. Puppies are a lot of work." "But I'd help." "You can't even remember to brush your teeth without reminding." She grinned, chocolate sauce on her chin. "But I'm getting better." He couldn't argue with that. She was getting better at a lot of things. Remembering her backpack, putting away her toys, understanding that the world didn't revolve around her immediate wants. Growing up. "Emma, I need to talk to you about something." Her face got serious. "Is it about my mom?" "Yeah, how did you know?" "You have your worried face. You always have it when something's about to change." Daniel took a breath. "Your mom wants to see you. I haven't said yes yet, but I wanted you to know that she asked." Emma looked down at her ice cream. "Do you think she's nice?" "I think she made some bad choices, but I also think people can change if they work hard enough." "Do you want me to see her?" "I want you to be happy and safe. If seeing her helps with that, then yes. If it doesn't, then no." Emma thought about this, her little face scrunched up. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. And if I say no, you won't be mad?" "I'll never be mad at you for your feelings, Bug." She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her ice cream. Daniel watched her, this resilient kid who'd already survived more disruption than most adults, and felt a surge of protective love so fierce it almost hurt. Whatever happened with Sarah, Emma would be okay. He'd make sure of it. That night, after Emma was asleep, Daniel texted Sarah. "We can meet. Wednesday, 8 p.m., coffee shop on Maple. I'm bringing someone with me." Her response came quickly. "Thank you, I'll be there." He forwarded the exchange to Claire, who replied, "I'll be there too. You're not doing this alone." Daniel fell asleep thinking about those words. You're not doing this alone. For 3 years, he'd been alone in every decision, every crisis, every late-night worry. And now Claire was offering to share the weight. It felt like grace. Wednesday dawned gray and bitterly cold. Daniel went through his day on autopilot. Work, Emma's dentist appointment, dinner, homework. Emma had decided she wanted to meet Sarah, but only if Daniel was there too. He'd agreed, though he hadn't told Sarah yet. One step at a time. At 7:30, Mrs. Palmer arrived to watch Emma. Claire showed up 10 minutes later wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back. "You ready?" she asked. No, but let's go anyway. The coffee shop was mostly empty when they arrived. Sarah was already there, sitting at a corner table, looking smaller than Daniel remembered. She'd lost weight, her face gaunt, her eyes shadowed. But she was clean, hair washed, clothes neat, hands steady on her coffee cup. She stood when she saw them. "Daniel, thank you for coming." "This is Claire," he said, not bothering with further explanation. Sarah's eyes flicked to Claire, something unreadable in her expression. "Nice to meet you." They sat. An awkward silence settled over the table. "You look different," Sarah said finally. "So do you." "Sobriety will do that." She tried to smile. "I'm sure you have questions." "A lot of them." "Okay, ask." Daniel glanced at Claire, who nodded encouragingly. "Why now? Why come back after 3 years?" Sarah's hands tightened around her cup. "Because I finally got my shit together enough to realize what I'd lost. I've been in and out of rehab twice. The second time stuck. I've been clean for 6 months, working the program, doing therapy, and every session, every meeting, I kept coming back to you and Emma, to what I walked away from." "You didn't walk away, you ran." "I know." Her voice broke. "I know I did. And I'm not here to make excuses. I was selfish and scared and I chose drugs over my family. That's on me." "Damn right it is." Claire put a hand on Daniel's arm, a gentle reminder to breathe. He forced himself to calm down. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want to know my daughter. I want to be part of her life, if you'll let me. I know I don't have rights. I signed them away. But I'm asking, parent to parent, for a chance." "You're not a parent. Parents show up." Sarah flinched. "You're right, but I want to be. I want to try." Daniel studied her, looking for signs of deception, of instability. He saw exhaustion, regret, and something that might have been hope. "Emma doesn't remember you," he said. "She asked me if you'd be mad about that." Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. "I'm not mad. I'm heartbroken. But that's my fault, not hers." Claire spoke for the first time. "What's your plan? If Daniel agrees to let you see Emma, what does that look like?" Sarah turned to her, seeming to really see her for the first time. "Start slow. Maybe supervised visits at first. I don't expect overnight custody or holidays or anything like that. I just want to be in her life in whatever way Daniel thinks is safe. And if you relapse, then I walk away. I won't put Emma through that." "How do we know you won't relapse?" Claire pressed. "You don't. I could relapse tomorrow, but I'm doing everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen. Meetings, therapy, sponsor check-ins. I'm working full-time now, rebuilding my life. Emma's part of that motivation." Daniel wanted to believe her. Part of him did believe her, but trust was earned, not given, and Sarah had a lot of earning to do. "If we do this," he said slowly, "it's on my terms. Supervised visits only. No overnight stays, ma'am. You don't get to make decisions about her life. You don't get to show up drunk or high. And if you hurt her, if you leave again, you don't get a third chance." Sarah nodded, wiping her eyes. "I understand. Whatever you want. And I need you to understand something else. Emma has a life now. She's happy. She's stable. If you disrupt that, if you make things worse instead of better, I will protect her. Even if that means cutting you out completely." "I know. I wouldn't expect anything else." Daniel looked at Claire, who gave him a small nod. They'd discussed this, the boundaries, the conditions, the safety measures. If Sarah was serious about recovery, she'd respect them. If she wasn't, she'd show her true colors soon enough. "Okay," Daniel said. "We'll try. 1 visit, at my house, this Saturday, 2 hours. I'll be there the whole time." Sarah's face crumpled with relief. "Thank you. Thank you so much." "Don't thank me yet. This is a trial run. You prove you're serious. We'll talk about next steps." "I will. I promise." They left the coffee shop 10 minutes later. In the parking lot, Claire leaned against her car and looked up at the stars. "You did good in there," she said. "Did I? I feel like I just opened the door to chaos." "You opened the door to possibility. There's a difference." She turned to him. "How are you feeling?" "Terrified, angry, hopeful, all at once." "That sounds about right." Daniel moved closer, pulled her into his arms. She came easily, wrapping herself around him, solid and warm and real. Thank you for being there, he murmured into her hair. Always. They stood like that for a long time under the cold November sky, holding each other against whatever came next. Thursday morning, Daniel woke up to Emma standing beside his bed, holding her stuffed rabbit, and looking more serious than any 5-year-old should. I had a dream about my mom, she said. Daniel sat up, rubbing sleep from his eyes. What kind of dream? She was standing in our living room, but I couldn't see her face. Emma climbed onto the bed, settling against his side. Do you think she'll like me? The question hit him square in the chest. Bug, she's your mom. Of course she'll like you. But what if I'm different than she remembers? You were 2 when she left. Everything about you is different. Emma was quiet, processing this. What if I don't like her? Then you don't like her, and that's okay too. Really? Really. You don't owe her anything, Em. Not your love, not your forgiveness, not even your time if you decide you don't want to give it. She burrowed deeper under his arm. But you said we're meeting her on Saturday. We are. But if at any point you want her to leave, you just tell me. We can have a code word. Something you say that means you're done. Emma's face brightened. Like a secret signal? Exactly like that. She thought for a moment. Pancakes. Pancakes is your safe word? Yeah, because if I say I want pancakes in the middle of the day, you'll know something's wrong. Daniel couldn't argue with the logic. Okay, pancakes it is. They got ready for the day in comfortable silence, Emma humming while she brushed her teeth, Daniel making coffee and trying not to think about Saturday. He'd told Sarah 2 o'clock. That gave him the morning to prepare Emma, to clean the house, to maybe have a small breakdown in private. His phone buzzed with a text from Claire. How's Emma doing? He typed back. Nervous. Me too. Want company tonight? I'm off at 7. Please. I'll bring dinner. You just have to exist. Something in his chest loosened. Claire had this way of knowing exactly what he needed before he knew it himself. It was unsettling and comforting in equal measure. Work was a blur. Daniel went through the motions, running conduit, connecting circuits, pretending his mind wasn't elsewhere. Mike caught him staring into space around noon. You good? Yeah, just distracted. The ex? She's meeting Emma on Saturday. Mike whistled low. That's heavy. How are you handling it? I'm not. I'm just existing until it's over. And then what? Daniel hadn't thought that far ahead. I guess we figure out if she's serious or if this is just guilt talking. What does Claire think? She thinks I'm doing the right thing, giving Emma a chance to know her mother. But I'm terrified it's going to blow up in my face. Mike clapped him on the shoulder. It might, or it might be exactly what Emma needs. You won't know until you try. The problem was that trying meant risking Emma's heart, and Daniel had spent 3 years making sure that heart stayed protected. Opening the door to Sarah felt like inviting in a hurricane and hoping it had learned some manners. He picked up Emma from school, took her to the library where she picked out 7 books, even though the limit was 5. The librarian let it slide with a knowing smile. They went home, and Daniel made grilled cheese while Emma read on the couch, her legs swinging off the edge. Daddy? Yeah, Bug? When my mom comes, should I call her Mom or Sarah? Daniel paused mid-flip. Whatever feels right to you. What if nothing feels right? Then you call her whatever you're comfortable with. Hey, or Miss Sarah, or nothing at all. Emma nodded slowly. Okay, I think I'll try Mom, but if it feels weird, I'll stop. That sounds like a good plan. At 7, Claire's car pulled into the driveway. Emma ran to the door before Daniel could stop her, flinging it open with enough force to rattle the frame. Claire! Hey kiddo, I brought Chinese food. You like lo mein? I don't know. What is it? Noodles. Really good noodles. Emma's eyes lit up. I love noodles. They ate at the kitchen table, Emma monopolizing the conversation with detailed accounts of each library book she'd chosen. Claire listened with genuine interest, asking questions, laughing at the funny parts. Daniel watched them together and felt something shift in his chest, a recognition that this was what family could look like. Not perfect, not traditional, but real. After dinner, Emma begged Claire to read her a bedtime story. Claire glanced at Daniel, who nodded permission. They trooped upstairs, Emma already in her pajamas, Claire settling on the edge of the bed while Emma snuggled under the covers. Daniel stood in the doorway, listening to Claire read about dragons and princesses and quests that seemed impossible until they weren't. Emma's eyes grew heavy, her breathing evening out, and by the time Claire reached the last page, she was asleep. Claire set the book down carefully, tucked the blanket around Emma's shoulders, and followed Daniel back downstairs. "She's sweet," Claire said softly. "She likes you." The feeling's mutual. Claire settled on the couch, patting the cushion beside her. "Come here. You look like you're about to vibrate out of your skin." Daniel sat, and Claire immediately pulled him against her. He went, resting his head on her shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. "I don't know if I can do this," he admitted. "Yes, you can." "What if it goes wrong?" "Then it goes wrong, and we deal with it. Together." There was that word again, together. Daniel was still getting used to it, to the idea that he didn't have to carry everything alone anymore. "I'm scared she's going to hurt Emma," he said quietly, "or that Emma's going to love her, and then Sarah's going to leave again. Those are both valid fears. But you can't protect Emma from every possible pain. Sometimes the risk is worth taking." "What if it's not?" Claire pulled back to look at him. "Then you'll be there to help her through it, just like you've been there for every other hard thing she's faced." She touched his cheek. "You're a good father, Daniel. Trust yourself." "I trust you more." "Then trust that I'm telling you the truth when I say you've got this." They sat in silence for a while, Claire's fingers running through his hair in soothing patterns. Daniel felt the tension in his shoulders start to ease. "Can I ask you something?" Claire said. "Anything. If this goes well with Sarah, if she sticks around and wants to be part of Emma's life, where does that leave us?" Daniel sat up, turning to face her. "What do you mean?" "I mean that I'm not Emma's mother. I'm not trying to be. But I also don't want to be in the way if Sarah's trying to rebuild a relationship with her daughter." "You're not in the way." "Are you sure? Because from the outside it might look like I'm the reason Sarah can't—" "Stop." Daniel took her hands. "Sarah left long before you were in the picture. Her relationship with Emma has nothing to do with you. And honestly, if she has a problem with you being in our lives, that's her issue to deal with." "But what if Emma has to choose?" "She won't have to choose. You're not in competition, Claire. You're just different people who care about her in different ways." Claire's eyes were wet. "I'm scared too, that Sarah's going to come back and you won't need me anymore." That's not going to happen." "You don't know that." "I do know that." He pulled her closer. "Sarah coming back doesn't change how I feel about you. It doesn't change that you're the person I want to talk to at the end of the day, or that Emma lights up when you walk in the room, or that you've become so woven into our lives that I can't imagine them without you." A tear slipped down her cheek. "Really?" "Really." She kissed him then, soft and searching, and Daniel kissed her back with everything he couldn't quite put into words. When they broke apart, Claire was smiling through her tears. "Okay," she said. "I believe you." "Good." They stayed on the couch until late, talking about everything and nothing: work stress, Emma's upcoming birthday, the leak in Claire's bathroom that her landlord kept ignoring. Normal life, continuing despite the uncertainty hanging over Saturday. Claire left around 11, and Daniel walked her to the door. "I'll come by Saturday morning," she offered. "Help you get ready." "You don't have to do that." "I know, but I want to be here. For you and for Emma." "Thank you." She kissed him goodnight, and Daniel watched her walk home before locking up. The house felt too quiet without her presence, too empty. He was getting used to having her around, to the space she occupied in his life. It was terrifying and wonderful at the same time. Friday passed in a fog of nervous energy. Daniel cleaned the house twice, bought snacks he thought Emma might want to offer Sarah, and changed his shirt 3 times before settling on a plain gray one that didn't seem to carry any particular message. Emma watched his frantic preparations with amusement. "Daddy, you're acting weird." "I'm just making sure everything's ready." "It's just my mom coming, not the president." "I know that." "Then why are you stress cleaning?" Because stress cleaning was better than stress drinking, or stress shouting, or stress hiding under the covers until Saturday was over. But Daniel couldn't exactly tell Emma that. "I want to make a good impression," he said instead. Emma looked at him like he'd lost his mind. She already knows you. You were married. Fair point. That night, Claire came over with a bottle of wine and strict instructions that Daniel was going to drink exactly one glass and then go to bed at a reasonable hour. I'm fine, he protested. You're spiraling. I can tell because you've folded the same towel 4 times. He looked down. She was right. Claire took the towel, set it aside, and poured them each a glass of wine. They sat at the kitchen table, Emma already asleep upstairs, and Claire made him talk through the plan for tomorrow. Sarah arrives at 2. Emma and I will be here. You're welcome to stay if you want, but I understand if you'd rather not. I'll stay for the beginning, Claire said. Then I'll make myself scarce, give you space. You don't have to leave. I know, but this is between the 3 of you. I don't want to complicate it. Daniel reached across the table, took her hand. You being here doesn't complicate anything. It helps. Okay, then I'll stay. They finished their wine, and Claire insisted on doing the dishes even though Daniel told her to leave them. She washed while he dried, and it felt like the most married thing they'd done yet, standing side by side in comfortable silence, working in sync without needing to discuss it. I could get used to this, Claire said softly. Me too. She turned to look at him, soap bubbles on her wrists. Yeah? Yeah. Something passed between them, an understanding, a promise, a glimpse of a future that felt more possible with every passing day. Daniel set down the dish towel and kissed her, slow and sweet, tasting wine and hope, and the particular flavor that was uniquely Claire. When they broke apart, she was smiling. You should go to bed. Tomorrow's a big day. Will you stay for a while, just until I fall asleep? Of course. They went upstairs, and Claire lay beside him on top of the covers, her hand in his. Daniel closed his eyes and listened to her breathing, felt the solid warmth of her presence, and somehow managed to drift off despite the anxiety churning in his gut. When he woke in the morning, Claire was gone, but there was a note on the nightstand. You've got this. I'll be back at 1:30. Love you. Love you. The words sat there on the paper, simple and world-changing. Claire loved him. She'd said it before, but seeing it written down made it real in a different way. Daniel got up, made breakfast, and tried to prepare Emma for what was coming. Remember, he said over pancakes, you can use your safe word anytime you want. Pancakes, Emma said seriously. I remember. And you don't have to hug her or call her mom or do anything that makes you uncomfortable. I know, Daddy, you told me like 100 times. I just want you to feel safe. Emma reached across the table, patted his hand like he was the one who needed comforting. I'll be okay. You'll be right there. She had more faith in him than he had in himself. At 1:30, Claire arrived as promised. She'd brought flowers, a small bouquet of daisies that she put in a vase on the coffee table. For courage, she explained. Daniel pulled her into a hug. Thank you for being here. Where else would I be? Emma came downstairs in her favorite dress, the purple one with the sparkly unicorn on the front. She'd brushed her hair herself, which meant it was slightly lopsided, but Daniel didn't have the heart to fix it. You look beautiful, Bug. Do you think my mom will think so? I think she'll think you're perfect. At 1:55, a car pulled up outside. Daniel's heart kicked into overdrive. Through the window, he watched Sarah get out, smooth down her shirt, take a visible breath before walking up the path. The doorbell rang. Emma grabbed Daniel's hand. Claire stood off to the side, present but not intrusive. Daniel squeezed Emma's fingers once, then opened the door. Sarah stood on the porch holding a wrapped gift, her face pale but determined. She looked at Emma, and something crumbled in her expression. Hi, she said, her voice breaking. Hi, Emma. I'm Sarah. I'm your mom. Emma stared at her, taking in every detail. Hi. Can I come in? Daniel stepped back, and Sarah entered. The 4 of them stood in the living room in awkward formation, Daniel and Emma on one side, Sarah on the other, Claire hovering near the kitchen. This is Claire, Daniel said. She's important to us. Sarah's eyes flicked to Claire, something complicated passing over her face. Nice to meet you. You too, Claire said quietly. Sarah turned back to Emma, crouched down to her level. I brought you something. Can I give it to you? Emma looked at Daniel, who nodded. She took the gift carefully, unwrapping it to reveal a stuffed bear wearing a pink dress. "I thought you might like her," Sarah said. "When you were little, you loved stuffed animals." Emma held the bear, examining it. "Thank you." "You're welcome." An uncomfortable silence fell. Daniel gestured to the couch. "Why don't we sit?" They arranged themselves carefully. Emma between Daniel and the arm of the couch, Sarah in the chair across from them, Claire disappearing into the kitchen to give them space. Emma clutched her new bear, her eyes never leaving Sarah's face. "You're taller than I expected," Sarah said, her voice thick with tears. "I'm big for my age," Emma replied matter-of-factly. "You look like your dad." "Everyone says that, but I have your nose." Sarah's hand went to her face unconsciously. "You do. You really do." The conversation stumbled forward in fits and starts. Sarah asked about school, about Emma's friends, about what she liked to do. Emma answered politely but without warmth, like she was talking to a stranger, which Daniel supposed she was. After about 30 minutes, Sarah pulled out her phone. "I have some pictures from when you were a baby. Would you like to see?" Emma nodded and Sarah moved to sit beside her on the couch. Daniel shifted to give them space, his heart in his throat as he watched his daughter lean in to look at photos of herself as an infant. "That's you at 6 months," Sarah said. "You just learned to sit up. You were so proud of yourself." "I was chubby." "You were perfect." Emma glanced up at Sarah, something softening in her expression. "Do you have more?" They spent the next 20 minutes going through photos, Sarah narrating each one with the kind of detail that spoke to genuine memory. Emma asked questions, laughed at funny pictures, and slowly, very slowly, began to relax. Daniel caught Claire's eye from the kitchen. She gave him a small, encouraging nod. Around 3:30, Emma yawned. Sarah noticed immediately. "You're tired. I should probably go." "Already?" Emma's disappointment was genuine. "Your dad said 2 hours. I don't want to overstay." Emma looked at Daniel. "Can she stay a little longer?" It was the first time Emma had referred to Sarah as she instead of my mom, and Daniel noticed Sarah flinch slightly, but she covered it well, waiting for his answer. "Another 30 minutes, he agreed. "Then Sarah needs to go, and you need to rest." Emma nodded, satisfied. She turned back to Sarah. "Do you want to see my room?" Sarah's eyes welled up. "I'd love to." They went upstairs together, Emma chattering about her toys and her books and the glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling. Daniel followed at a distance, not wanting to intrude but not willing to leave them completely unsupervised. In Emma's room, Sarah sat on the floor while Emma showed her everything, her art supplies, her stuffed animals, the family drawing she'd made with Daniel and Claire. Sarah paused at that one, her finger tracing the yellow-haired figure. "Is this Claire?" "Yeah. She's like my bonus person. Not a mom, but special." "That's nice. I'm glad you have people who care about you." Emma studied Sarah's face. "Are you sad?" "A little, but also happy. Happy that you're okay, that you have a good life." "Did you miss me?" The question was so direct, so guileless, that Sarah visibly struggled to compose herself. "Every single day," she whispered. "Every single day I thought about you and wondered what you were doing and if you were happy." "Then why didn't you come back sooner?" Daniel stepped forward, ready to intervene, but Sarah held up a hand. "Because I wasn't ready. I was sick, not with a cold or a flu, but with something in my brain that made me make bad choices. And I had to get better before I could be the mom you deserved." Emma considered this. "Are you better now?" "I'm working on it, every day." "Okay." Emma seemed satisfied with this answer. She held up her new bear. "I'm going to name her Sarah, after you." Sarah's face crumpled. "You don't have to do that." "I want to, so I can remember you when you're not here." "Oh, sweetheart." Sarah pulled Emma into a hug, and Emma, after a moment's hesitation, hugged her back. Daniel watched from the doorway, his throat tight. This wasn't the reunion he'd expected. There was no dramatic breakthrough, no instant connection. Just two people trying to find their way back to each other with honesty and patience. It was better than he'd dared to hope for. At 4 o'clock, Sarah stood to leave. Emma walked her to the door, still holding the bear named Sarah. "Can you come back?" Emma asked. "If your dad says it's okay." Emma looked at Daniel. "Is it okay?" Daniel met Sarah's eyes over Emma's head. He saw exhaustion there, and grief, and something that looked like genuine commitment. "Yeah," he said. "We can do this again." Sarah's smile was tremulous. "Thank you, both of you." She hesitated. "And thank Claire for me too. I know this couldn't have been easy for her." "I will." Sarah left and Daniel closed the door behind her. Emma stood in the hallway, hugging her new bear, her expression thoughtful. "She's sad," Emma observed. "Yeah, she is." "But she's trying." "She is." Emma looked up at him. "I think I like her. Is that okay?" Daniel picked her up, even though she was getting too big for it. "That's more than okay, Bug. That's perfect." Claire emerged from the kitchen, her face carefully neutral. "How did it go?" "Good," Daniel said. "Better than I expected." Emma wiggled down and ran to Claire. "Look, I have a new bear. Her name is Sarah." Claire admired the bear with appropriate enthusiasm, then met Daniel's eyes over Emma's head. He mouthed, "Thank you," and she smiled. After Emma went to bed that night, exhausted from the emotional weight of the day, Daniel and Claire sat on the porch despite the cold. "You okay?" Claire asked. "I think so. That was less terrible than I feared." "Emma handled it well." "She did. She was brave." He paused. "Thank you for staying. I know it couldn't have been easy, watching me facilitate a reunion with my ex-wife." "It wasn't about easy. It was about being there for you and Emma." Claire took his hand. "That's what love is, Daniel. Showing up even when it's hard." Love. There was that word again, settling over them like snow. "I saw your note this morning," he said quietly. "Oh, yeah." Claire looked away. "I probably should have said it to your face first, but you were sleeping, and it just felt true, so I wrote it down." "Say it now." She turned back to him, her eyes reflecting the porch light. "I love you, Daniel Brooks. I love you and Emma and this messy, complicated life you've built. I love how hard you try and how much you care, and how you never take the easy way out when the right way is harder." Daniel pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "I love you too." I don't know when it happened or how, but somewhere between laundry Thursdays and park visits, you became the person I can't imagine living without. Claire's breath hitched. "Really? Really?" They sat together in the cold, holding each other against the dark, and Daniel realized that for the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving. He was actually living. And it was worth every terrifying moment. The weeks that followed Sarah's first visit developed a rhythm that Daniel hadn't anticipated. Every other Saturday, Sarah would come to the house for 2 hours. She brought small gifts, coloring books, puzzles, once a necklace with Emma's birthstone that made Emma's entire face light up. The visits were supervised, always a little awkward, but Emma seemed to look forward to them in her own cautious way. Daniel watched his daughter navigate this new relationship with a maturity that broke his heart and made him proud in equal measure. She called Sarah by her first name, kept a careful emotional distance, but was kind. Always kind. Claire had become a fixture in their lives too, though in a completely different way. She was there for dinner most nights, helped with homework, made Emma laugh until milk came out of her nose. The difference was that Claire had earned her place through consistency, through showing up day after day without fanfare or expectation. It was early December when everything shifted. Daniel was at a job site when his phone rang. Sarah's name on the screen made his stomach drop. She never called outside of their scheduled visits. "Hello? Daniel, I need to talk to you. Can you meet me somewhere without Emma?" Her voice was shaking. Daniel's mind went to the worst possible places. Relapse, another disappearance, something that would shatter the fragile progress they'd made. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I need to talk to you about something important, please." They agreed to meet at the same coffee shop where they'd had their first conversation. Daniel left work early, his mind spinning through possibilities, none of them good. Sarah was already there when he arrived, sitting at the same corner table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she clearly hadn't touched. She looked tired but steady, her eyes clear. "Thank you for coming," she said as he sat down. "What's this about?" She took a breath. "I'm leaving Denver." The words hung in the air between them. Daniel felt something cold settle in his chest. "When?" "End of January. I got a job offer in Phoenix. Better pay, better benefits. A chance to really start over." She met his eyes. I wanted to tell you first before I told Emma. You're just going to leave? Again? No, not like before. Sarah leaned forward, her expression intense. I want to keep seeing Emma. I can fly back once a month, or you could bring her to Phoenix for visits. I'm not disappearing. I need to build a life that's sustainable, and Denver has too many ghosts. Daniel understood that more than he wanted to admit. Sometimes geography was the only thing that could create enough distance from the past. Does Emma know? Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first, figure out how we should tell her together. The fact that Sarah was including him in the decision, that she was thinking about Emma's feelings instead of just her own needs, meant something. It didn't erase 3 years of absence, but it suggested she was trying. I'll talk to Emma, Daniel said. Prepare her. Then you can tell her together at your next visit. Okay, thank you. Sarah's voice cracked. I know this probably seems like I'm running away again, but I'm not. I'm running toward something, a chance to be the person Emma deserves. I hope you are, for her sake. I know I've given you no reason to trust me, but I'm asking you to try. She paused. How is she doing? Really? She's good. She's happy. She has friends. She's doing well in school. She talks about you sometimes, usually when she's playing with the bear you gave her. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I miss so much. Yeah, you did. Do you think she'll ever forgive me? Daniel thought about Emma's careful kindness, her ability to hold space for complicated feelings. I think she already has, in her own way. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. You're going to have to earn her trust every single day for the rest of your life. I know, I'm ready to do that. They talked for another 30 minutes, working out logistics, discussing how to make long-distance visits work. Sarah asked about Emma's birthday, about Christmas, about whether Daniel would be comfortable with video calls between visits. She was trying, genuinely trying, to be part of Emma's life in whatever way she could. When Daniel got home, Claire was in the kitchen making spaghetti while Emma set the table. The scene was so domestic, so normal, that it made his chest ache. You're home early, Claire said, kissing him hello. Had to meet with Sarah. Her expression shifted to concern. Is everything okay? She's moving to Phoenix, end of January. Claire's hand stilled on the wooden spoon. Is she leaving for good? No, she wants to keep seeing Emma, just from a distance. Emma appeared at his elbow, tugging on his sleeve. Is my mom going away? Daniel crouched to her level. Let's talk about it after dinner, okay? Is she coming back? She says she is, but we'll talk about what that means. Emma nodded slowly, then went back to her place settings. Daniel caught Claire's eye over her head, saw the question there. He nodded slightly. They'd talk later. Dinner was quieter than usual. Emma pushed her food around her plate, asking occasional questions about Phoenix. Was it far? Did they have snow? Could she visit? Daniel answered honestly, not sugarcoating, but not catastrophizing either. After Emma went to bed, Daniel and Claire sat on the couch with glasses of wine they barely touched. How do you feel about this? Claire asked. Relieved, I think. And guilty for feeling relieved. Why guilty? Because part of me is glad she'll be far away, that she can't just show up and disrupt things whenever she wants. He paused. Is that terrible? It's human. You're protecting Emma. And yourself. I don't want to keep Emma from her mother. You're not. You're just acknowledging that distance might actually make this easier for everyone. Daniel leaned into her, breathing in her familiar scent. What did I do before you? You survived. But you don't have to just survive anymore. She was right. Somewhere between Sarah's reappearance and now, Daniel had stopped being in survival mode. He'd started actually living, making plans, taking risks, letting people in. The next Saturday, Sarah came for her visit. Daniel had prepared Emma the night before, explaining that Sarah had something important to tell her. Emma had listened with that serious expression she got when processing big information. Sarah arrived with hot chocolate and a photo album, pictures of Phoenix, of the apartment she'd be renting, of the sights Emma might see if she visited. She was smart about it, making it seem like an adventure rather than an abandonment. So you're moving far away, Emma said, studying a picture of a cactus. I am, but I'm going to come back every month to see you, and maybe you can come visit me sometimes, if your dad says it's okay. Emma looked at Daniel, who nodded. We can talk about visits. Will you forget about me? Emma asked Sarah, her voice small. Sarah's face crumpled. Never, not ever. You're my daughter, Emma. Distance doesn't change that. But you forgot before, when you went away the first time. The accusation was gentle but devastating. Sarah took a shaky breath. You're right, I did. And I can't promise I'll be perfect now, but I can promise I'll try every single day. I'll call you every week. I'll send you pictures and letters, and I'll come back as often as I can. Emma was quiet, processing. Then she said, Okay, but if you forget, I'm going to be really mad. That's fair. They spent the rest of the visit looking at pictures and talking about what Emma might want to do in Phoenix. Sarah bought her a small cactus in a painted pot, something to remember her by. Emma named it Spike and immediately claimed it for her bedroom windowsill. When Sarah left, Emma stood at the window watching her drive away. She's really trying, Emma said softly. She is. Do you think she'll actually come back? I think she will. But if she doesn't, you'll still be okay. Because you have people here who love you no matter what. Emma turned to look at him. Like you and Claire? Exactly like me and Claire. She seemed satisfied with this answer. Later that night, when Claire came over with takeout, Emma announced that her mom was moving to Phoenix, but it was okay because she had Spike the cactus to remember her by. Claire handled it with her usual grace, asking questions and validating Emma's feelings without making it a bigger deal than it needed to be. December slid into the chaos of holidays. Daniel's mother called weekly, asking about Christmas plans and dropping none too subtle hints about meeting Claire. His sister sent increasingly elaborate care packages for Emma, each one containing a note asking when Daniel was going to make things official. Make what official? Claire asked, reading one of Karen's notes. You know, us. Are we not official? I mean, we haven't really defined anything. Claire set down the note, her expression amused. Daniel, I'm at your house every day. I have a toothbrush in your bathroom. Emma introduced me to her teacher as her bonus person. I'm pretty sure we're official. I just don't want to assume you're overthinking again. I'm not overthinking. I'm being careful. You're being scared. She said it gently, without judgment. What are you afraid of? Daniel thought about it. That this is too good to last. That I'm going to wake up and it'll all fall apart. Everything falls apart eventually, Daniel. That's life. The question is whether the time we have is worth the risk of it ending. Is it? For you? Claire moved closer, taking his hands. I love you. I love Emma. I love this weird little family we're building. So, yeah, for me, it's worth every second. Even when I'm difficult? Especially when you're difficult. That's when you need me most. Daniel pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. I don't deserve you. Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway. Christmas Eve arrived with fresh snow and Emma's barely contained excitement. Daniel's mother and sister were coming for dinner, which meant Claire was about to meet the full Brooks family gauntlet. She'd been nervous all week, changing her outfit 3 times before settling on jeans and a dark red sweater. They're going to love you, Daniel assured her for the 10th time. You don't know that. I know my family. They're going to take one look at how happy you make me and Emma, and they're going to love you. He was right. His mother walked in, took one look at Claire helping Emma decorate cookies, and immediately pulled Daniel aside. She's wonderful. Don't screw this up. I'm trying not to. Try harder. That woman loves you, and more importantly, she loves Emma. Do you know how rare that is? Karen was more direct. When are you proposing? We've only been together for like 2 months. And? You've known her for 3 years. You love her. She loves you. What are you waiting for? I don't know. The right time. The right time is now, little brother. Don't be an idiot. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Emma showing off her new bear and her cactus, Karen telling embarrassing stories about Daniel's childhood, his mother quietly observing Claire with the kind of maternal approval that made Daniel's chest tight. Claire fit in seamlessly, laughing at the right moments, helping clean up without being asked, treating his family like they were already hers. After everyone left and Emma was asleep, Daniel and Claire sat by the Christmas tree with the lights off except for the colored bulbs. Your family's great, Claire said. They loved you. How can you tell? My mom only brings out the good china for people she plans to keep around. Claire laughed. We ate on paper plates. Exactly. She's already planning ahead to when you're permanent. Is that what I am? Permanent? Daniel turned to look at her, her face illuminated by red and green lights. I'd like you to be, if that's what you want. What I want is to stop feeling like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. What I want is to know that this, us, is real and lasting. It is. Claire, I know I'm not great at saying how I feel, but you're it for me. You and Emma, this life we're building. I don't want it to be temporary. She kissed him then, soft and sure, and when she pulled back, her eyes were bright. Then let's stop calling it temporary. Let's just call it ours. Ours, Daniel repeated. I like that. They stayed up late, talking about the future in concrete terms for the first time. Where they wanted to live, maybe combine households eventually, maybe get a bigger place. What they wanted for Emma, stability, support, the knowledge that she was loved by multiple people. What they wanted for themselves, not perfection, but partnership. The daily choice to show up for each other. January brought bitter cold and Sarah's move to Phoenix. Her last visit with Emma was on a Sunday afternoon, 2 days before she left. She brought a scrapbook she'd made, pictures of Emma as a baby, photos from their recent visits, blank pages for the future. I want you to add to this, Sarah told Emma. Send me pictures of your life, and I'll send you pictures of mine, so we can see each other growing, even when we're apart. Emma flipped through the pages, touching each photo carefully. I'll miss you. I'll miss you too, sweetheart, but I'll call every Sunday, and I'll visit as soon as I can. Promise? Promise. They hugged goodbye, and Emma cried a little, which made Sarah cry a lot. But it wasn't the devastating farewell Daniel had feared. It was sad but hopeful, an ending that was also a beginning. After Sarah left, Emma climbed into Daniel's lap with her scrapbook. I have 2 moms now, she observed. You do. Sarah, who gave birth to you, and Claire, who chooses to love you every day. Is Claire going to stay? I think so. Is that okay with you? Emma nodded. Can we ask her to move in with us? The question caught Daniel off guard. You want Claire to live here? Yeah, she's already here all the time, and her apartment is small and her bathtub doesn't work right. Plus, then we'd all be together. Daniel kissed the top of her head. Let me talk to Claire about it, okay? Okay. But tell her I already cleaned out the extra drawers in the bathroom for her stuff. That night, after Emma was asleep, Daniel called Claire. I need to ask you something, he said when she answered. Okay, that sounds ominous. It's not. At least I hope it's not. He took a breath. Emma wants you to move in with us. Silence on the other end. Then, Emma wants me to move in? Well, technically, she asked if we could ask you. But yeah, she already cleared out bathroom drawers for you. Claire laughed, a little breathless. That's very presumptuous. I know, but she's right that you're here all the time, and your landlord still hasn't fixed your tub, and He paused, choosing his words. I want you here, officially, not just visiting, but actually living here, making this your home too. Daniel, I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring things out, but I also know that I wake up every morning hoping you'll be there, and I go to sleep every night grateful that you exist. So if you want to take that leap, if you're ready, then I'm asking. Move in with us. Be part of this family in every way. He could hear her breathing, could picture her processing this enormous ask. Can I think about it? She finally said. Of course. Take all the time you need. Not for long, just a day or two. This is big. I know. But Daniel, I love that you asked, and I love that Emma wants it. That means everything. She called back 2 days later while Daniel was at work. Yes, she said when he answered. Yes? Yes, I'll move in. Yes, I want to be part of your family. Yes to all of it. Daniel had to sit down, his legs suddenly weak. Really? Really. I talked to my landlord and I can be out by the end of the month. Is that too fast? That's perfect. Okay, then I guess I'm moving in. They told Emma that night over pizza. She screamed so loud that Daniel was pretty sure the neighbors heard. I told you she'd say yes, Emma crowed. I knew it. How did you know? Claire asked, laughing. Because you love us, and we love you. That's how families work. out of the mouths of 5-year-olds. The next 3 weeks were a blur of packing and merging households and figuring out how to fit 2 lives into one space. Claire didn't have much. Her apartment had been temporary, a placeholder between one life and the next. But what she did bring transformed Daniel's house in subtle ways. Plants appeared on windowsills. Books filled empty shelves. Photographs went up on walls that had been bare for years. It started to feel like a home instead of just a place they slept. Emma helped Claire unpack, giving her opinions on where everything should go and narrating the entire process. This candle should go in the bathroom because it smells like lavender, and lavender helps you relax. Claire needs to relax because she works too hard. Daddy, don't you think Claire works too hard? I think Claire works exactly as hard as she needs to, Daniel said diplomatically. Well, she needs lavender anyway. On Claire's first official night living with them, they had a small celebration. Just the three of them, sitting around the kitchen table with cake that Emma had helped decorate. It was lopsided and covered in too much frosting, but it was perfect. I have something to say, Emma announced, standing up like she was giving a speech. I'm really happy Claire lives here now, because now we're a real family. Not perfect, but ours. Daniel felt his throat tighten. Claire's eyes were wet. Not perfect, but ours, Claire repeated. I like that. They ate cake and talked about the future. Small things like whose turn it was to do dishes, and big things like summer vacation plans. Normal family stuff, the kind Daniel had stopped believing was possible. Later, after Emma was asleep, Daniel and Claire stood in their shared bedroom, their bedroom now, not just his, and looked at each other across the space. I can't believe this is real, Claire said softly. Which part? All of it. You, Emma, this life. 6 months ago, I was crying in my living room telling you I loved you and thinking I'd just ruined everything. And now I live here. I'm part of your family. Daniel crossed to her, pulled her close. You were always part of this family. We just made it official. I'm scared I'm going to wake up and it'll all be gone. Then I'll be right there when you wake up to remind you it's real. She kissed him, and he kissed her back, and they stood in the dark holding each other like they could anchor themselves to this moment. February came with Valentine's Day and Emma's 6th birthday. Sarah called every Sunday like she'd promised, sending pictures of cacti and sunsets in her new apartment. Emma talked to her easily, sharing stories from school and showing off her latest drawings through the phone screen. It wasn't a traditional mother-daughter relationship, but it was something honest and sustainable and built on consistency instead of proximity. For Emma's birthday, they had a party at the house with a dozen kids running wild through the rooms. Sarah sent a gift, a photo frame with pictures of them together, and a note that said, I'm proud of you, sweetheart. Love, Mom. Emma put it on her nightstand next to the family drawing that now included Claire. Daniel watched his daughter blow out her candles, watched Claire help serve cake, watched the life they'd built unfold in real time. It wasn't the life he'd planned. It was better, messier, more complicated, infinitely richer. That night, after the last guest had left and Emma was asleep in a sugar coma, Daniel found Claire on the back porch despite the cold. Hey, you okay? Yeah, just thinking. About? About how much has changed in 6 months. About how scared I was